Good afternoon, everybody. It is November 17th at 12 noon. We're here with the Common Council Public Safety Committee, and we are interviewing candidates for the two open seat positions for the CPRB, the Community Police Review Board. The reason we're doing this meeting on a Monday afternoon was we do have some vacancies, and the council felt it was very important for us to meet and see if we can appoint people to the Community Police Review Board. All right, so joining us today, we have three Public Safety Committee members, Kelly Kimbrough, Jack Flynn, Tom Hoey, myself. Also, we have our City Clerk, Shaniqua Jackson, our legislative aide, Carly Johnson. We have our counsel, Robert Wenner. We have the CPRB member, Warren Hamilton, with us. And we have the program director for the CPRB, Garrett Schaff. And I see...
Alyssa Kamara,
Alyssa.
Junior Legislative Aide.
Yes, Alyssa.
Policy analyst,
our
sorry.
Policy analyst. And Alyssa, I apologize, my brain just went blank. So what we're going to do today, we do have three candidates. We have 5 or 6 questions. We're going to give them time to ask some questions about their service on the CPRB, if they have any. And so why don't we start with Jack Flynn. And we're joined by Public Safety member Alfredo Ballerin, who will be sitting down now. Oh, sure. Yeah, and so first we'll have the candidate introduce himself, give us a little bit of the background and why he's applying for the CPRB. Thank you.
Press the stripe to turn the light on. Yeah. My name is Mike Logan. I am a lifelong educator here in Albany. I'm also members of various organizations that also serve the community. I've been serving the Albany community for the last 30 years. I'm very active in civic and also justice-involved service. And the reason why I want to serve on this board, I want to serve on this board to bring some kind of equality and normalcy to the residents and to the police department. There are things that people look at in the community, and it's all not as they see, right? So when you're looking at things, you want to make sure it's fair and equal across the board, and actually the truth comes out.
Thank you, and we'll start with some questions. Jack, do you want to start us off?
Thanks, Mike, for taking on this task of the Community Police Review Board. As you probably know, it's a very controversial, the public is very interested in this board out of any other boards that we have. But can you explain what your definition of police misconduct would be?
I don't think it's police misconduct. I think it's just misconduct in general, right? So every organization has a set of rules, and those rules should be followed. If those rules are violated in any way, and if those rules are violated in any shape, form, that is misconduct. It's important to understand the rules of engagement. We may look at, civilians may look at the rules differently, and officers I know have a different set of rules that they look at. They go by their patrolman handbook, and misconduct can be as simple as somebody not understanding the rules, or it can be a violation of somebody's civil rights or their constitutional rights.
Okay. Do you know any current or former members of the CPRB?
All I know about some of the members of this Community Police Board is actually some of the young lady. There was a nice young lady who asked me that I want to join it. I was out at one of the events, and she said, "Hey, would you like to join the Police Review Board?" And then I was like, "What is it all about?" She said, "I'll tell you." Yeah. And now I'm sitting in this seat.
Yeah, that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing that they're out there in the community and recruiting people, so it's a good thing. But thank you.
Kelly?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Logan, for your interest in taking part in the CPRB. So can you explain what your understanding of what the CPR does is and why it's important?
Well, what I can say, and thank you for the question, that my understanding of the Police Review Board is to have an independent body objectively look at complaints against the police. And having that independent body look at it, you come up with the solution of whether something was done wrong, something was done right, is there more training, or is there a need to be for more stricter discipline policy. I think the services of the board is investigational services, where you do look into situations that happen. You talk to the individuals, you find out their side, you find out the officer's side, you look at different investigation tools, body cameras, and witnesses, and you try to find out what actually went on. So that's my answer to your question.
Okay, good. Thank you. That was a pretty good answer.
Alfredo, do you have?
Thank you, Chair. Can you share your specific interests of joining the board and any personal connections to the cause?
Sure. My personal connection to the cause is that I'm a person in society. That's my personal connections. Every day we have interactions with the police officers. I can say that as long as I lived, I had interaction with police officers, but none of them were to the point that where it was excessive or I was violated in any way. My purpose to the cause is because I like justice and equality for everyone. I think everyone should be respected and everybody should be treated in a fair manner. I do understand in systems, like I said before, when you look at systems, you have to understand the rules of engagement in systems. Take those two rules because they may be opposite. Those two rules that you look at it, I'll use it for example again. The rules for engagement with a civilian and the rules for engagement with a police officer. They go by two separate different rules, right? One is a patrolman's handbook and one is being a citizen. Where do they meet in a respectful way where somebody's not violated? And for the second part of your question, just as for me being a person that understands struggles and understands, where I come from the inner city, where most of the time when police officers come in the inner city, sometimes they have a bad reputation, or the individuals who are on the other end of the police coming in may end up in a bad situation. So there needs to be some equal standing there. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
And the final question we have for you today, and then we're going to open it up for you if you have any questions of us, is what is your perspective on the term independent regarding the Community Police Review Board? And that's been in the news lately, and a lot of people use that word, so I'm wondering what your interpretation of independent means.
Okay, so me being a scholar, the word independent can mean a couple of different things. First of all, I'm going to say there's nothing that's really independent, okay? There is some overarching agency that it belongs to, okay? So when you say independent, it's how much independence is given, right? So for example, if I'm a teacher in the school, I have autonomy of my class, I can go teach in my class, but I can have independence in my class, but there's also a principal in that school, right? There's also a district governing that principal, and there's also Department of Education that's governing that. So independent, when you say independence, you have to look at what makes up that independent board. Where's the funding coming from? Where's the source coming from? What is the agenda of who's putting that board together? So there's no such thing really as independent. You have to look at how the pieces move with the puzzle, right? So like I said, independent review board means that we're gonna look at something, we're gonna recommend it to someone, right? If I'm recommended to someone, it's not that independent. So we make an independent, we're gonna make an independent decision. We're gonna submit that to whoever it may be, Common Council, Mayor's Office, the Police Department, and then together you come in and making that decision. So independent, yes, you have independent on one scale, but you have to come together to make the decision for all that's good on another scale.
Well, thank you. And personally, what I'm looking for, and I can ask the other members of the committee, we want you to be able to look at a case, come in impartial, that you don't have a prejudged thing, and it's hard these days with media and social media out there, but you actually look at the facts and go through them, and nobody's telling you, the council isn't going to call you on the phone and say, Michael, we want you to find it this way. We want the board to be independent in that type of decision-making. But you're absolutely right that there is a higher authority, the person who writes out the checks, which is, the city itself, and we're kind of fiscally responsible.
Right.
So, but thank you.
Right.
Great answer, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, do you have any questions for
Mr.
us?
Chair.
Oh.
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Logan, do you have any prior experience serving on a board similar to the CPRB or any government board?
No,
Okay, thank you.
I have not.
Go ahead, Warren.
Hi, my name is Warren Hamilton. I'm a current member, most recent, probably about 5 weeks, so I'm still learning. As a person who's been on this earth 61 years, I think trust between the community and the police department is paramount to a lot of the issues that we all want to solve. So what is your understanding of the trust gap, and how might you solve that if you think that's a problem?
I believe community service is the great equalizer of all things, community service. What do I mean by community service? You have a police department that plays flag football with the kids. You have the police department that is out in the community, right? You have police department that is that officer that that's around the kids or you all the time. That's where the trust comes in. And I think it's a lot of, it's a lot of, I'm gonna say, fantasy, right? I'm gonna say fantasy in a word, and I'm gonna use fantasy in a way and explain it to you. If I don't know, and everybody's scared of the unknown, so if there's an officer showing up on the scene and I'm not familiar or I don't know that officer or anything, I'm already gonna have a preconceived notion of what's gonna happen. As for if I see my community service officer walks up to me and hey, listen, we need to look at this. I was here when a big part of when we had the riots and people were coming in out of the neighborhood. I actually had a press conference at Green Tech, and I had the officers there, and I said, listen, these officers you're gonna call to protect you, right? They're gonna come to protect you. You gotta have trust in them. And they, gave me the thing about bad officers, good officers. Listen, you can weed out bad people. If I trust you, or we have some communication that's trustworthy, then things will get better. I remember back when I was in SUNY, we had something called midnight basketball, and the police department was involved in that. The kids were off the street, and everybody was in the gym playing basketball, and the officers came by the gym, and they, looked. I think it's the fear of the atmosphere right now that causes a lot of issues. And I think one thing that Police Review Board can do, instead of, and this is just a suggestion, instead of looking at what the police do bad all the time, talk to the community about the Police Review Board. Talk to the community about, hey, these are some of the other good things that the police are doing, because everybody's not bad. And sometimes we get wrapped up in that. And I come from the inner city where I was chased by police, did everything. But I also understood that, hey, all of them are not bad. So we have to look at trust. When you say trust, what is your definition of trust? Am I just going to trust you when things do good, or am I going to trust you when things go bad? Am I going to trust you when the officer comes and look for somebody that's in our community that's doing something bad, or are we going to just trust the officer when our child gets hurt and then we want the officers there? So we have to look at both sides. So both sides have to trust. I hope I answered your question.
Now, do you have any, because we've got to be mindful of the time, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. I'm gonna put the whole list away, but I got a couple of questions, right? My first question is, why is the review board, there's a little controversy now. Why is that?
Well, in a nutshell, and really being brief, and I'll be glad to speak at length,
Thank
but
you.
what happened was previously the Albany Community Police Review Board was located in Albany Law School. And the law school actually was very involved years ago. And what happened was we had to put out an RFP, and the Albany Law School, the first one, won the RFP. And when they decided, they did it for 2 years under that contract, when they decided that they no longer wanted to house the Community Police Review Board, the person that was really responsible left Albany Law School. She was a professor there, and they just weren't interested. So we did try to do another RFP, and we had no responses. So what was decided at the time, let's bring them into the city. They had to be underneath some kind of government entity, and we felt the council, who actually founded the review board back in around 2000, we felt that would be the best way. But, you know, when you're writing the check, some people didn't like that we weren't, the way the checks were being written and the accountability. We also lost the program director a year, actually 2 years ago, August, left and took a job being a program director in Texas. So we had an opening there. The law school filled in till January. We were searching for a program director, and we actually hired Garrett in the end of May of this year. So there was a lot of, it was like a rudderless boat that, you know, was just drifting in the currents and stuff. But there's a lot of stuff back and forth. I can assure you that the council will not interfere with the way the community review board's supposed to work, but we do look at the fiscal responsibility to the people of Albany, the city.
Okay, so my next question is, and this is to the council, what are your expectations and what is your foresight of a successful board?
I think having a fully staffed board is the number one critical item. We have 5 appointees, and the mayor's office has 4. The mayor has had some openings for 3 years now and just refuses to appoint people. We were told they didn't have enough people apply. We sent over 6 names, really good resumes, good people, and they didn't act on it. And, you know, we just had the recent resignation. So, you know, we had one member, he was over a year overdue. We had another member, the man died in office because he was supposed to be replaced and wasn't. So, I mean, you know, again, that's the past. Moving forward, my hope is that we have a fully staffed board, that everybody gets the training. I was going to talk to you after, you know, at the end of the questions, but I'll do it now. We do expect people to take the civilian, the members of the board, by your own bylaws, say you have to take the Community Police Academy, which comes up only once a year in the spring. We expect you to do that. We expect the board members to take on cases. And again, we had 6 people doing the work of 9 for well over 2 years because we weren't fully staffed. So again, I think what we all want is that a timely review of the cases. After a year, there's no, if you take more than a year to decide a case, there's no there's no power there. The way the law is written, you can't, penalize somebody after a year. So the important thing is, and I've stressed to the board, please work on the more recent cases. I'd like the backlog, the 3-year, 4-year-old cases to be looked at some point. But if we have active cases that we can do something about, when I say we, I mean the CPRB can do something about, we need to have that happen in a timely manner. So,
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I would add to that also staff up the board, but we also need staff in the office, along with Mr. Schaff. We have positions for administrative staff. We're looking for some investigators, maybe to even bring on a permanent attorney. Right now, it's under contracted services, but getting that all together and firing on all cylinders, I think, would be very helpful towards moving the work along.
So, that was my last.
And I was going to follow up on that, but to kind of what you already said, we're looking for an open, independent mindset. And I consider our board like a jury. You're already going in with no information.
Right.
We don't want you to come in here with an agenda or with a preconceived notion when you, quote-unquote, see something that has already happened. You got to come in, like a jury. If you can't do it like a jury, then
Yeah.
you got to move
I
on.
understand.
Thank you.
Like reference, right?
And then I want to just add one more thing also. Jumping back to the prior question where Mr. Hoey was explaining the CPRB to you. Quite often people say that the CPRB shouldn't be under the city. I think that's people misunderstand in that the council is the legislative body. We're not the executive. The council doesn't control the police. We don't direct the police. We don't pay the police. So we're perfectly in a perfect position to oversee the Community Police Review Board without any issues, because we're closest to the people. Our mandate is from the people. So it's logical. Some people don't see that, and they think it's a problem just because you're in the city or involved with the city, but I don't see it that way.
Well, I see it this way. Well, the question was asked earlier about what is independence, right? There's levels of independence, right? There has to be some kind of governing body, just the way it is, whether we want it or not. But I'm not going to belabor that because that's another thing. But if chosen, I'll be glad to serve. I'll be glad to.
Sure. I think Alfredo had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to also just make a comment. I'll tell you what I'd like to see, and I think the board plays a key role in is, calling it down the middle, call strike a strike, home run a home run. That's what I think we need. I think it's important to hold people accountable when, people act outside the boundaries. But it's important to have an independent body that has the community's trust.
Right.
That says, no, this was within the guidelines. I think that's important. It's important, one, for accountability for our police force, but also, two, for building trust between our law enforcement and our community.
Right.
Because if we don't have this trust, when we have bad actors in our communities, it's hard for law enforcement to go in there and ask for corroboration and get support to make our neighborhoods safer if there's this sense that it's us versus them. And that's what I think the board is so critical. Call it down the middle. Someone acts when they're outside the boundaries, let's hold their feet to the fire, let's hold them accountable. But also, if someone does things the way they're supposed to, like you said, let's make sure people know that.
Yeah, that's when the young man here said trust, right? But
So do you have any, are you good with the
yeah,
question?
I'm pretty
Good.
much.
Because we ran a little bit over, and I don't want, we don't want our other applicants to leave, but I just want to mention to you that there's 2 openings that we have right now. I know one is going to be, there's one for 2 years and one for 3 years, so we'd like you to serve, and we can talk to you
Okay.
if you pass the interview, and we decide to point to which one you want. You're the first one to apply, so I'm going to keep that in mind. But the other thing I want to just let you know, there is a small stipend that we fought for a few years ago because it's not fair to make people, the amount of time that's involved. So it's a $3,000 a year stipend.
Okay.
Um,
I'm
that,
rich.
I'm sorry? Well, it's not a lot, but it's something to show and to thank you for serving.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
Okay.
coming, and if you don't mind, send in Emma. You're going to sit, you can. I'll step out. Josh. Why is he next?
Because he has.
You go either side.
Okay.
Good, how are you?
Josh, if you want to give us your name, where you live, and just a brief background and why you're applying.
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Josh Singletary. I'm at 59 Lennox in Albany. And although my wife is born and raised in Albany, I've been here with her for about 10 years. We have 2 kids in the public school system. And the reason I'm here today is because I received the call that we needed more support for this board. And my wife and I were very engaged in the community, and so I didn't hesitate to come right down.
Well, thank you. And Jack, do you want to start us off with some questions?
Thanks, Josh, for your interest in the Community Police Review Board. As you know, it's a very busy board, very active, very public. Can you explain your understanding of the word police misconduct?
Can you
What's
repeat
your definition of police misconduct?
what I understand about
Yeah,
it?
what's your view of the word police misconduct?
Well, I think the word misconduct, carries a lot, right, with it. I certainly have, a broad view of law enforcement in general. I think it plays a vital role in our communities. I think when we discuss misconduct in any work context, it's problematic, right? There's something in the system that's not working, and it's not giving anybody the outcome they're looking for. So obviously, from the perspective of a citizen who relies on law enforcement like we all do, misconduct, in my mind, could mean that, all of us are less safe, less comfortable. We have less of an understanding of what the outcome should be given a particular scenario. So when I think of misconduct, I think it's something that we need to look into and see if we can correct.
Thank you. Do you know any current or former CPRB members?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Kelly?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your interest in the position and getting engaged. I mean, it's important, the civic engagement. So I'm Kelly Kimbrough, President Pro Tem of the Council, and a retired police officer here in the city also, which some people don't know. My question is, what is your understanding of what the CPRB does and why it's important that they do what they do?
That's a great question. My understanding, my assumption, you're right, sometimes it's dangerous to make assumptions, but my assumption is that this board exists to provide, oversight, feedback, influence within some boundaries, right, on the way public safety is conducted in this city. So, for example, if we're aspiring to outcomes that feel fair, that carry dignity, respect, that expand our definition of safety and comfort as citizens in Albany, this board should reflect those ideals and should be, a partner with our law enforcement to see, what are the mechanisms that help reinforce that. So that's my assumption of what the board is here for. Obviously, you hear about these boards when there are crises or when there are, community sort of outcries based on one event or another. But my assumption is that the board exists between those moments too, to help reinforce those structures and prevent a future problem from occurring.
Thank you.
Alfredo?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for your willingness to take your time here to meet with us and your willingness to possibly serve on this board. So we appreciate that. Can you share with us any specific reason for your interest in joining the board and any personal connections to the cause?
No, I don't know anyone, I'm not aware of knowing anybody in our current police force, and I don't know anybody on the board. I have contributed in my career and life to some public service engagements, right? I was in the military. I was proud to serve in the Navy. That was at the beginning of my career. Spent a lot of time serving in community-based nonprofits for a good portion of my career. And here in Albany, we're very engaged. So, as I alluded to in my answer to Kelly, I'm interested in serving on the board if I can help bring the things I believe in to the discussion. If I have a bias, it's towards fairness, dignity, safety, understanding, well-being for everybody, for all parties involved in any sort of law enforcement contact. So that would be my interest in serving on the board. I also find that I do well synthesizing. I tend to come in with an open mind to whatever discussion I'm a part of. And so if I can be helpful in that respect, that would be great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And my question is, what is your perspective on the term independent regarding the Community Police Review Board? And it's been in the paper, that's why I'm bringing it up. A lot of people.
It's a good question. I think independence, there's a lot of context to independence, right? You can have flexibility within a framework, as they say, right? So you're always operating, even if you're in a board like we're discussing today, you're still operating within a greater system, a greater context. But if you have the independence to speak freely, to offer unique solutions, to challenge the status quo, I think that's a good use of independence. But you do that in a way that sort of integrates and intersects with what the city structure is trying to accomplish. So I guess that's my thoughts on independence as it relates to a structure like this.
Well, thank you. And Garrett, do you have any questions? Garrett's our program director for the CPRB. He's hired under the council.
Good afternoon. Do you have any prior experience serving on a board like this or any other government body?
No.
Thank you.
And Warren, do you have any question? Warren's a current
Yes.
member.
How are you? My name is Warren. I'm been on the board 5 or 6 weeks. I like your initial answer. It was intriguing because most people lead with the board is here to review complaints, and they sort of stop right there, but you didn't. So I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on that part of the process, which is kind of the heart of it, it's not all of it, that we have to review actual complaints of misconduct.
So elaborate on my earlier remarks, or elaborate on the process?
Elucidate or add in your perspective on the review process.
The review process itself.
Yes, because I don't think you touched on that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I was speaking about, in general, that there's work to do between complaints, I think, for a board like this to ensure that the structures are moving forward in the ways that will prevent outcomes that we don't want. But when you do have a complaint, I think it's the responsibility of the board to dig in and to sort of look at the entire scenario, think holistically, think systematically, and listen and pay attention. I think board members should speak freely, should debate, and should be absolutely, resolute with what they feel is, the best case response, what they feel is in the best interest of, all the parties involved. I haven't served on a board like this, so this is as an outsider, sort of reflecting on what I imagine it should be like.
All right. And do you have any questions for us?
I guess related to some of what I've talked about today, I led with an assumption of mine that, this board has a role to play, when there are no incidents, right? Ideally, there's work to be done at all times, right? Encouraging, development, of our law enforcement and community, relationship. So my question to that end is my assumption correct? Does this board have a strong role to play outside of reviewing incidents when they occur? And what does that look like?
Well, I believe that the board has previously done community outreach. I think it's important that the community knows that they're there for other things. I'm just,
Yeah, I think
Kelly,
Mr.
go ahead, Kelly. Okay.
No, I think Mr. Hamilton should chime in and the
Sure.
program director on this one.
Okay, thank you. So, as it's clearly understood, we are in a period of significant change for the board. We are in the process right now, since we cannot hold public meetings, of laying the necessary foundational work so we can hit the ground running, so we can do our reviews, but also be more engaged in the community and provide feedback on department policies and procedures that we are allowed to scrutinize or suggest revisions to maximize the impact of this organization as it's structured. And there has been an underutilization of the authorities of this board historically. So I'm hopeful that with a full complement of members and staff, we will be able to maximize the impact of the board across the city.
Thank you.
And I would just add that through our committee process, especially the parts of the committees that meet directly with the executive leadership at APD, that's one way that when they're not reviewing complaints, that they're working directly with respect to accountability and or trying to understand a liaison with the police department.
That's very helpful. In my field, which is somewhat unrelated, but in technology that I work in, you're always trying to improve ultimate outcomes, right, for the people who use your services and systems. And so you have to do a lot of the boring work, which is what, trying to predict what progress looks like, what incremental progress looks like. How do we know that we're moving forward, right? We can't just wait until, some outcome. We need to see sort of the small steps. And so that's where my question came from, how do we engage on the little things? Thank you.
I'm going to ask Garrett just I don't know what the number, we do have quite a few cases backlogged.
So currently, the board has, I want to say, 140 complaints on its open complaints. Mm-hmm. Not all of those are in a status that the board can actually take action on. The vast majority of them, about 50% of them, are still waiting on the police department to finish their work. And then within the complaint load that we have that the board can act on, roughly half of them are beyond the legally established time frame for the board to be able to answer or provide a recommendation. So one of the things we're working on is figuring out how to address that, while also still conducting the behind-the-scenes work on the other half of the complaints. So once we are able to have meetings, we're able to review them and close them and give the finality to the community and the police department.
So we have two challenges, right? We're trying to foster better outcomes for law enforcement, but we're also trying to build a more functional board process.
Correct.
So that we could be the contributor we're supposed to be. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did know your resume is very, very impressive. Being a CIO of a college in the area is, I work at the university and I'm in IT for 37 years, so I really respect, and I think that you could definitely add to the board with your IT background. I think, did you ask all the questions you had, or?
I think so, for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just want real fast, just go over some of the requirements. When you serve on the board, you're also going to be, assigned cases. The board meets once a month, and the term of office, we have 2 openings right now. One is for 3 years and the other is for 2. You're allowed to serve 2 3-year terms, if I remember correctly. So I think, whoever gets the 2-year term can actually technically serve another 6, but we could talk about that in the future. There is a small stipend, $3,000 a year for doing the service. That's something the council pushed for a few years ago because the amount of work involved. And this is very high visibility. I know the previous person asked about, you know, what's going on. There has been a lot of press. Not all the facts have come out in the press. And again, we're not looking at the past, we're looking to move forward. The Police Review Board moved under the city auspices in January, so we're all still learning. We didn't hire our program director till May, so it's a growing process, but the people that we've interviewed, people that we have on the board currently are really good, and we see this as a new beginning, and to build the public trust is the most important thing that we can do at this point. So, but thank you so much. Does anybody have anything else? If not, thank you again, and we'll let you know how
Thank you very
things are.
much.
Okay. Hope so, we can ask. Emma, you do live in Albany, right?
Yes.
Okay, Jack just asked this one. So do you want to, you can introduce yourself and why, and just let us know what your background and why you're applying.
Sure. So my name's Emma. I call myself fondly an Albany girl. I'm Albany all the way down. I live on Madison, like Center Square area, right by Madison and Lark. So, and honestly, this is the best place that I've ever lived. I bought this condo, so that's also a good thing that I like the location because I'm locked in. So, yeah, but I've like rented prior to that. I've lived downtown as well. I lived on Ash Grove off of Grand Street, so I'm familiar with different environments in Albany, one. Two, I felt like I had applicable background as far as like skills that I've developed over the years, developing my career and growing in my career. Obviously, I'm relatively young. I'm 26 years old. But right out of college, I graduated from UAlbany. Right out of college, I got a job with Rensselaer County Child Protective Services. So I got my first apartment all by myself over just across the river. And I did that for a few months, probably 6 months, until I got the opportunity to join Child Protective with the state. But the important piece about Child Protective is initially I was doing casework door to door, knocking, like you have a case, here I am showing up on your doorstep. Nobody wants that. So I'm familiar with interacting with the public. I'm familiar with having difficult conversations with folks. Also sharing information, providing resources, definitely like second nature to me. So anyway, so after that job, I got my opportunity to get in with the state. I'm trying to get a pension, honey. I need benefits. I need all the good stuff that I can get. So got in with the state, doing Child Protective. Basically, when folks would call, teachers, doctors, you know, whatever the case may be, they call and have a concern, they share information. I would take that and determine what to do with it. If a report can be made with Child Protective, if a law enforcement referral has to go out, I digress. And then, you know, following the procedure as far as facilitating doing that. And then what I currently do, another opportunity, I've been moving right along, folks. I got a job also with the state. Right now, I do investigations for alleged discrimination in the workplace. So, and this is, again, like the best job I've ever had. I am so lucky, so blessed to, you know, be doing something that I feel matters, like that I feel like is important. And, you know, and a big thing with investigations, right? Not every allegation that comes your way is something that's founded, and that's been a journey, you know, as far as like working in investigations. That's been a big piece of it. Is like, I remember a lawyer telling me from the job that I have now, like, assume everybody is lying to you across the board. So that way you find your own route of what makes sense and what seems to be valid. I feel like I've rambled, so
Well, thank you. And
I don't know if you're missing anything, but probably not.
So we'll have some questions for you from committee members, and we'll start off with Jack Flynn.
Okay.
Hello, thank you. I feel like you're going to go from your full-time investigative job into another investigative job, so
Yes.
it's like a nice little fit. Most people go from a full-time job into something different, fun, but this looks like it's going to be the same thing. But that's good. You have the experience, obviously, investigation. But my first question is about police misconduct. What is your understanding of police misconduct and how it pertains to the board?
So misconduct to me is acting in a way that would probably violate policy or procedure, making mistakes.
Gotcha. Do you know anybody that's currently on the board or former members of the CPRB?
No, sir.
That's good. How did you find out about this?
Actually, my mom saw it on the news, and she was like, she called me up, she said, Emma, you gotta do this, it's right up your alley, and I've been stoked ever since, so I'm excited to be here, friends.
That's good. Thank you.
And next we have Kelly Kimbrough, President Pro Temp of the council.
Thank you for your interest and your excitement. It's
Thank you.
very apparent. So can you explain your understanding of what the CPRB does and why what they do is important?
Sure, so, well, I'll start with the second piece, like why what they do is important. I think accountability is very important, especially in this political climate. I think that basically mistakes happen. We have evidence that shows that police have had a history at times of making mistakes that's very impactful to the community because they're supposed to be there to protect us. So it's like a fine line to walk of everybody who, or the folks who are in positions to protect us. We all need to be ensuring that that's what they're doing, and when folks maybe cross the line or make a misstep, that's acknowledged and addressed appropriately. Also, like, for example, like in my line of work, like there's levels of egregiousness, right? Like there's a difference between, like, let's say sexual harassment. There's a sexual harassment of a comment that can be made to somebody, or there's also sexual harassment of like physical touching. So there's levels of egregiousness, but all of that should be addressed and appropriately responded to. And so my understanding of what this board is designed to do is to respond to concerns that are voiced. So allegations would come in, and then a review of information and investigating, gathering information, and then comparing to whatever policies, procedures, whatever documentation I have of like what the rules are, and then comparing that to what took place, what the incident was, and going from there as far as, okay, here's what happened, here's what the rules are, did something go left somewhere? And what can we do about that now moving forward to ideally have as minimal, as few negative incidents as possible, and ultimately creating a better police force at large, policing our community.
That's good, thank you.
Thanks.
Alfredo?
Thank you. And thank you for, one, your willingness to apply, and two, for your time to be here, and your energy.
Thank you.
Because, you know, that's, we don't see that as often when we're talking about these type of topics. So appreciate your willingness to be here. So we've got a series of questions that we're asking all the candidates. I'm going to just ask you my question.
Yeah.
Can you share your specific interest in joining the board, and if you have any personal connections to the cause?
Okay, so to be fully transparent, I see this as a growing opportunity for myself. I think that this would be good for my resume, to be fully transparent. The other pieces, as I said in the very beginning of this, I'm an Albany girl. I love my city. Like, I care about being a positive, being a positive member, contributing what I can. And so it's like, when it came to my attention that this was something that existed, and furthermore that positions were available, I thought, why not? Like, I can be of service, I can be useful if they want me. And so those two pieces of, like, it can help me grow in my personal life, in my career, and also I think that I can be of service, and I care about doing that, genuinely. Oh, and then personal connections. As far as, like, people, I don't know anybody in none of that. I don't know anybody on the board, or I'm not connected to any police officers either.
Okay. So, I'm sorry. I'm just gonna get a quick follow-up. I appreciate your comment about personal growth. I think that's important. And, you know, again, I appreciate you putting yourself out here for that. I think just being here and having this experience is part of your personal growth. So I appreciate that. And you said you were 26?
Yes.
Invest, invest, invest. So
I got the deferred comp going as we speak, Fran.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm going to give you the last of our questions, which we've been asking all the candidates so we can get a good idea. What's your perspective on the term independent regarding the Community Police Review Board? Because there's been a lot in the press lately about, you know, some members that left wanted to be more independent. But what's your feelings on that?
Sure. So, independent operation, I think, like, folks would say, like, basically, like, you don't have to answer to anybody, in the sense of, you know, sometimes, like, if you have a boss, you do things the way that your boss wants things done, even if maybe that wouldn't be what you would typically do. And so I think that maybe perhaps that's the concern from folks, is that if I'm not doing this independently, then I don't have full, like, freedom of expression. And so I can understand that concern. Luckily, I'm somebody who I don't have a problem speaking what I think, feel, anytime, to anybody.
Yeah,
So-
for further clarification, the council and this committee want you to be independent when you're making decisions on cases that you're reviewing.
100%.
Just like when you serve on a jury, you go in with no mindset, you're going in, you're going to look at the facts and make a decision.
Right.
Where we've run into problems is that the council writes the checks, and when you're not fiscally responsible, somebody has to say, hey, you're spending too much, and, you know, people can get upset about that, because once you cut the money flow off, it's like, but I just had to,
Sure.
you know, do
And
that.
just on the piece about money, I'm not doing this for money. So whether money is involved or not, this would be something that I would be interested in doing.
And when money, I'm talking about consultants, and there's a lot of money involved. It's close to around $700,000 is the budget for the
Wow.
CPRB. So, and the board members have to come up with how to spend it you know, and be fiscally responsible. So
Budgeting.
wanted to get that word out. Okay, so at this point of the, oh, I got two more people that might want to ask questions. Garrett?
She answered my question.
Okay. Garrett is our program director. He works for the council. He's the interface between the board and the council. So
Got it.
we hired him in May. And then we have Warren Hamilton. Go ahead, Warren. He's a member currently.
Okay.
Thanks for your enthusiasm and your interest. I'm the newest member, very new, very green. But the question is, and I want to get it right here, how do you define trust with respect to police policy and procedure, and do you feel that this is a particular problem in Albany?
Trust. How do I feel? Trust in relation to police policy and procedure?
Yes.
Okay.
Which means how they interact with the public.
Right. So I would say, like, the number one thing that comes to mind is that remains the same no matter who you're interacting with, right? So whether it's, you know, a state worker speeding on their way home or, you know, somebody in a hoopty, you know, whatever. Like, anybody from any walk of life, no matter their background or protected class statuses, that you're applying those policies, procedures the same. That's very important. And as far as, like, do I think that that's an issue that exists in Albany? I'd say, yeah, probably, and probably every city. Like, I think that that's something that we need to keep our eye on in policing in general, because people are unique, and you know, their paradigm is unique to them as the individual. And so my point to that being, biases are inherent, and so what needs to be done is, like, recognizing that biases exist and addressing those. And everybody's unique and different as far as what biases they hold and why, and how you would go about addressing that to ensure that it doesn't interfere with your career and how you interact with the public on an everyday basis.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that it switches to your questions, do you have any questions for us that we can try to answer?
So I think I wanted to understand just more about what I would be taking on. Responsibility-wise is, like, the biggest question. I do know that, or at least I read, my understanding is that the board meets once a month, and I recognize that there would be work outside of that, and you come to the meeting prepared is my assumption, but...
I'm going to let the program director, you know, he can explain what the responsibility is better than I can. I have a rough idea, but...
So the work and time commitment is going to fluctuate, right? It's not stagnant. Every month there's a meeting, and that's usually 2.5 to 4 hours, depending on what's on the agenda. Sometimes it's very short. And then around those meetings, you would be responsible for participating in one of our internal committees. We have various committees providing liaison between the board and executive officials here in the city, and the board and the police department, and community engagement and internal processes within the board. And then you would be responsible for reviewing your own level of complaints. We would assign a certain number of complaints to you for you to review and present to the board. Right now, the 4 members that we have, 3 of them are handling our current caseload that we can actually act upon, and 1 is handling our older caseload. The 3 that are handling our current caseload average, I think right now they're hovering around 8 cases apiece, 8 or 9 cases apiece. So it's not significant, but it can be challenging. However, I'm here as a support mechanism, and the staff that we are in the process of recruiting to hire will be there to support you as well. I also have some strategies on how to reduce your work for the board to give you back some of your free time, because all of the board members are volunteers, and you'll have full-time staff to support you in your volunteer work.
Awesome. Also, like, I'm familiar with case management, so
Excellent.
eight cases, I'm like, okay, all right, I could do that. Okay.
Excellent, because case management is lots of fun.
So much fun.
And, you know, you'll be working with the police department, you'll be viewing videos, you know, the body cams, you know, listening to witnesses. So it's a pretty interesting job. And again, we ask that you go in with an open mind to look at stuff. Any more questions, or?
I think I'll leave it at that for now. I really just wanted to understand the responsibility, like what I would be taking on should you find me to be an appropriate selection.
I wish I had the energy you have, I'll tell you. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I will.
If I may.
So, go
If I
ahead.
may. So there is one additional commitment, and that is you are required by law to complete the community academy from the police department.
Yes.
That's offered once a year in the spring, so several of us will be going because we haven't had the opportunity to go.
Okay.
But that is probably your biggest commitment beyond meetings, and I think it's a 16-week program that meets once a week.
Oh, okay.
In the evenings. It's like a
Right,
couple,
right.
2 or
Oh,
3.
and after work.
Yeah, and our board
Okay.
meetings are in the evenings as well. We don't do stuff because of the makeup of our membership. It's all after hours.
Okay, phenomenal.
And I've been talking to the chief to see if some of that could be done virtually, that you didn't have to be there in person. There is a stipend, a small stipend that the council fought for and got for the Community Police Review Board. It's like $3,000 a year.
Yep.
It's not a lot, but it's something to thank you for the amount of time that will be put in. We do have, right now, I mentioned outside to the 3 applicants, we have 2 openings right now. One is for 3 years, and the other is for 2. You're allowed to serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms. So whoever gets the 2-year term, I believe technically can serve for another 6 when the 2-year term is up, because they're fulfilling somebody else who resigned from the board's position. We might possibly have yet another opening. And just to let you know, the board's made up of 9 members. 4 of them are appointed by the mayor, and 5 of them are appointed by the council. Currently, the council has 3 active members, and the mayor has 1. We're hoping that either this mayor or the next mayor comes in, will fully staff it. When you have 9 people working on the number of cases, it makes it a lot easier than for the longest amount of time, only 6 people or 5 people
For sure.
were working on it. So, we'll see what we can do as far as that. But I just wanted to give you that basic stuff. And yeah, I mean,
Well, I appreciate that. And the
very
ball
good
is
this one.
rolling. You're hiring. You're getting folks in there. So hopefully, backup is coming.
Yes. Yeah, our plan is, in the past, we contracted out an attorney, well, not us, but the CPRB contracted an attorney, contracted out from New York City investigators, and what we're looking to do, because the Community Police Review Board came under City Common Council auspices in January. So this is kind of new for all of us. Before they were part of the Albany Law School. But we think doing stuff internally is more fiscally responsible for the city, and I think it gives you more control for the Community Police Review Board. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add, or questions or anything? Well, if not, thank you. Thank you so much for
All right.
applying. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Thank you for living in Albany.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
My
Thank you.
pleasure. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So at this point, I'm going to consider a motion to go into an executive session, if I can get one.
I make a motion to go in executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
Kelly is second, and all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. I do want Warren to hang out and Garrett to also hang out, and our staff to hang out also during the executive. Thank you. Thank you, Warren. Hello, everybody. We are out of executive session, and after discussion of the candidates, and we've ranked our candidates, and we will bring it up at the meeting on December 1st. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second, anywhere? Kelly? And all in favor? Aye?